Okay, I have a chain of 30 and I skipped 12 butterfly stitches or 4 butterfly stitch sections. And what I mean by sections is each one of these holes here has 3 butterfly stitches in it. So you could just count over 12 butterfly stitches, or you could just count the holes. 4 holes is 12 butterfly stitches. So count 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this very last butterfly stitch of the 3 above this one here, this is where I'm going to do my slip stitch. And slip stitch not in the first wing, not the first wing, but the second. You're just basically going to skip over that whole section for the armhole. But for this portion of the tutorial, obviously my piece is much smaller, so just going to skip over a few just to show how I do it. Okay, so you skipped over 4. You've done it the correct way. Now you're going to be starting to work your butterfly stitches into the wings, or what I call the wings of the butterfly stitch. Okay, so once you've finished your butterfly stitch and your arm, and you started your butterfly stitch, you want to continue your butterfly stitch over and cover 12 butterfly stitch sections, which I said these are the sections, counting each hole over, or you can count the actual stitches. You can count over 33 butterfly stitches. But when you get up to 33 butterfly stitches, then you're going to want to make your next hole, for your arm. So go all the way around, and then butterfly stitch, continue to butterfly stitch just like I showed you until you skip past again 12 butterfly stitch sections or 33 butterfly stitches. And then you'll want to slip stitch in the next butterfly stitch. So say you just got done with this last section here, this is your 12th, and this is your 13th section. So we just do this butterfly stitch as though this was my last section here. Okay, say this is the last butterfly stitch in my 12th section. Now this is my 13th section. I'm ready to start my armhole here. All you want to do is go right into the next butterfly stitch and do a slip stitch. Just slip stitch into that next stitch. Now start your chaining of 40, and then again when you've got your 40 done, you will again skip over 4 butterfly stitch spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here at the very end of this 4th section, you will slip stitch to create your hole on this side. So then you'll have your hole, your armhole. This is a very small chain, and of course yours should look more like this. That's just to show you how much you need to skip over and how you attach it and begin your armhole. But like I said, this is a small piece, so to me, I'm skipping like 2 just to show you an example. So in between one armhole to the next, you will be skipping 12 sections, and then in between the armhole spaces here, you'll only be skipping 4 sections. And then the rest of the time, you will be butterfly stitching, continue to butterfly stitch as normal all the way till you get back up to your chain for your first armhole. And this is where you'll want to place your marker, because this is going to be the beginning of your round from here on out. And you have a space here, or at least I do, before my chain. I'm going to skip that one and you're going to start working your butterfly stitch on the chain itself. This is going to become your hole for your sleeve, so you don't want to crochet in there. So you're going to be working with 2 chains to make the butterfly stitch, just like you were using 2 stitches. Go into the first chain, do your first part of the stitch, and then go into the second chain to finish it. And remember, you have 40 chains here, so you should have 20 butterfly stitches going up over the chain. So you're starting round 4, and you keep your marker here so that you know this is the beginning, or just remember at the beginning of this armhole here that is the beginning of your round. So you'll be working your butterfly stitches using 2 stitches, just like you were doing this whole time, and you're just going to continue to go round and around and around for 8 rounds. Okay, for rounds 12 and 13, you have to butterfly stitch 5 stitches and then increase 1. So what you want to do is do 5 butterfly stitches worked as normal using both wings of the butterfly. You'll do that 5 times, doing the butterfly stitches normal, and then on the 6th butterfly you'll be increasing. And how you increase with the butterfly stitch is that you'll be putting 1 full butterfly stitch worked in each wing. So you'll put a full one in this one and a full butterfly stitch worked in this one. So you're just going to go into that first wing and then go right back into that same wing and finish the butterfly stitch. Chain 1 to finish it. And then now, going right into the next butterfly wing, it will work another butterfly stitch. So now you have a butterfly stitch worked in each wing of the butterfly. Then you'll do another 5 butterfly stitches worked as normal using both wings of the butterfly, just like that. You'll work 5 regular butterfly stitches, and then you'll do another increase. And you'll be doing this for 2 rounds, for rounds 12 and 13. So continue to do that all the way around, and you have your marker here to mark the beginning. So just continue to do that for 2 rounds, and when you get back up to your marker after round 13, then I will tell you what you need to do for round 14. Okay, for round 14, you're going to be putting 1 butterfly stitch worked using 2 wings of the butterfly, just like you did last round. The only difference is rounds 12 and 13, you would butterfly stitch 5 and then you would increase. With round 14, I want you to only butterfly stitch 3 before you increase. So put 1 butterfly stitch in each stitch in the next 3 stitches, and then you'll do an increase of butterfly stitch again by putting 1 butterfly stitch worked in 1 wing, like that, and then go right into the next wing and put your other butterfly stitch to do your increases. So butterfly stitch 3 normally, and then you'll do an increase. This will be for round 14. For round 15, you just want to butterfly stitch in each stitch around. So this is just going to be a quick, fun round. Just put a butterfly stitch as normal in each stitch around and work it all the way around until you reach your marker again. Okay, for round 16, you're going to want to do what you did for round 13, which is butterfly stitch in the next 5 stitches as normal, and then in the 6th stitch you'll do your increase, which is 2 butterfly stitches worked in the same butterfly, just 1 butterfly stitch in each wing. You've done this many times already. So you're just going to be repeating round 13, 5 butterfly stitches and then an increase. Okay, for round 17, it's just like you did before. It's a really easy Round 15, it was the same. You're just doing one butterfly stitch in each stitch around. So again, you'll be doing the normal butterfly stitch using both wings to create the one stitch. So just put one butterfly stitch in each stitch around, and I will see you back here to teach you how to create the buttons. Okay, before we start on the buttonholes, it's much easier if you go ahead and you start doing some of the arms, or do the arms first, because it's going to make you know, so much easier if you put it on somebody, let them slip their arms in it, and see if it all fits correctly on them. So then you can close it up tight up at the front, and then you can mark out your buttons right on them. You could put it on a hanger and try it that way, but you'll still not know how it feels on the arms. So if you're making it for somebody, it would be so much better if you could have them there at the time when you're doing your buttonholes, but you can still try to make it without it. What I did is I just went a small portion of the way up, and I would place a marker. I'm trying to place it to where I'm not going to get in my own way. Just to mark out where the underarm will be. So you know that this is going to be the top part of the arm, and here too, and this little area down here is going to be what's going to be under the arm. And it can be hard to know where you are when you're going around and around and around and around. So it just helps if you mark these two spaces so you know where to begin around this marker and finish around this marker. Okay, for under the arm, the very first row, we're going to just be putting one butterfly stitch using 2 stitches as usual all the way around. We're going to be forming our butterfly stitches now, because this whole area here is the bottom of the chain. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to work with once you get your butterfly stitches on. So first, slip stitch on your color, and then you want to chain 1, then go into the next stitch. Whoops, you want to yarn over for this first one. Yarn over and go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, then you'll pull through 2 and pull through 2 and chain 1. That's going to be your first butterfly stitch. So it's going to basically be a chain. When you slip stitch your color on, you'll just do a chain, yarn over, and you're doing a double crochet pretty much in the next one, and then chain 1. But that's going to count as your first butterfly stitch. So from now on, we're going to be doing the butterfly stitch as normal. So you go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through only 1 loop again, then go into the next stitch. You're going to finish your butterfly stitch, and you're just going to continue doing this all the way around. And you can work your corners as best as you can. So like this one, I have one of the stitches before the corner, and then I have the other stitch here I can use on the other side of the corner. Even though it is a butterfly stitch, I used one of the wings just to kind of bring that around. So what I'm going to do is go right back into that same stitch and do my chain there, and then finish it in the other wing, just to try to keep it consistent. And then just continue to work your butterfly stitches as normal all the way around. Okay, I've come to the end, and I have 1 stitch left before the end, which is pretty good. It's actually recommended, but it doesn't have to be that way, because the reason why it's recommended is because you can go into this first stitch and begin the butterfly stitch, and then this large stitch at the beginning of the round, you can go into it and finish the butterfly stitch. Then you can move your marker here, and you know that now this is the beginning of the round. Now you're going to be working in one continuous round all the way around. So my marker is pretty close already. So I'm going to continue with round 2. Now for the beginning of round 2, we're going to be doing 8 decreases. And how you do decreases is you're going to be going into to do the butterfly stitch as normal. The only difference is you don't chain 1 at the very end of the butterfly stitch. So you just do your little chain and your double crochet, and then you just leave it without chaining, and you just go right into the next one. By doing this, you're not going to have that separation of the wings that you're so used to with the butterfly stitch. It's just going to be one open space like that. So if you have an open space like this, you know that you've done it correctly and you did not chain after the stitch. You want to do this 8 spaces. So this one obviously has a butterfly stitch in it, so we won't count that one. We'll start counting by this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Now count and make sure you have 8 open spaces. Find the very first one. This was a butterfly stitch, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 open spaces. So which means after this last one here, you can chain 1, because from here on out you want it to be a butterfly stitch. So after that, now you're going to be working the rest of your round as normal, just using both wings of the butterfly stitch, doing a butterfly stitch, chain 1, and continue on. Going to be doing this all the way around, and when you get back up to your beginner marker here where we do our decreases, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, when you come all the way back around, and I made it back up to my marker again and did my last butterfly stitch. Now I've come to those single stitches again, the ones that don't have the wings, where we did our 8 decreases last round. Now we're going to be using 2 of these stitches to make our butterfly stitches this round. So for round 3, we're going to be going into the first non-butterfly stitch, and we're going to be doing the first part of the stitch. Then we're going to go into our next stitch over and finish our butterfly stitch. We have 8 of these stitches here, so since we're using 2 stitches at a time, at the end we should have 4 butterfly stitches running along the bottom of our under our arm. So there's 1, and then I finish it in the next stitch. Then I go into the next, do the first part of the stitch, go into the next, finish the stitch. And then the last one here. There, now I have my 4 butterfly stitches underneath my arm. Now for the rest of this round, I'm just going to be putting 1 butterfly stitch in each stitch around as normal until you reach back up to your marker again on this side. Now we've made it to round 4, and for round 4 we're going to be doing the same thing that we did for round 2, which is we're going to be doing the next 8 butterfly stitches without chaining 1 afterwards. So if you want to start after this beginning stitch, go ahead and get rid of that first chain after this butterfly stitch here, and then the very next one will be your first decrease. So I'm going to go into this first stitch and not chain after. See, now this has become my very first one. Now my daughter, I remade her sleeves several times, and at one point I ended up doing this, and one of the sleeves got too small when I did 2 double increases of 8, like I'm showing you how to do now. And it got too small, so I backed it out and did only 6 this row here for row 4. So if you find that this hole here is good as is, and it would be way too small if you did a decrease of 8 or even 6, then maybe only do 4. But if it's good the way it is, maybe just leave it alone. But I had to do more of a decrease with my yarn for my daughter. So round 4 can be optional if you're experienced, to be able to adjust it to the person. Because once you do these decreases, in the next row you're actually going to be using these 2 to even decrease further. And then when you start to do your butterfly stitch around and around and around, it will tighten up that much more. So keep this in mind, and if it's already fits well right now, don't do any increases. And if it's a little bigger, then maybe do only 4 or 6 increases. This may be something that you need to mess around with. So if you want, you can even move your marker up here to the 4th round, so that you know this is your 4th round, where you'll need to make adjustments later if need be. But for my daughter, I pretty much needed to do 8 or 6. Each sleeve was different. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to do the 8 one. Here I am chaining afterwards. I'm not supposed to. Just because it was the size I needed for my jacket. And it's just like you did before. You have your 8 open ones like this, and then you're going to finish the row with just regular butterfly stitches till you come back around to the beginning. And then again, you're going to be working using 2 of these stitches to create 1 butterfly stitch. So continue that all the way around till you get back to the beginning. And then for round 5, you'll be repeating round 3, which is using these to create 1 butterfly stitch. And then after that, and it should be a good size. If you like the size, if you need to make any adjustments, this is the time to back out and maybe decrease less. Because after you've completed the 5th round, rounds 6 through 30, which are going to be 25 rounds for me, for my daughter's jacket, you will just be putting 1 butterfly stitch in each stitch around. And I recommend marking the beginning of that round when you're ready. And then that way you can just work, and then you'll be counting diagonally. So say when you mark this stitch, you will want to start counting this way. Let me show you this on this color here. It's like if you mark this round, when you start to count, you'll be counting diagonally. 1, 2, it's not just up. You'll be going sideways. So please keep this in mind when you mark your stitch and you start counting your rows. You mark your 6th round, and then from round 6 on, you'll have 25 rounds. And with the 5 that you just did, you'll have a total of 30 rounds on the sleeves. Okay, for the buttons, considering that this little piece is just that, a little piece, it's not wide enough to where I can really show you how to do the buttonholes. Now I'm going to be able to show you in pictures, and I'm going to be showing you how I fold over the back, and then you'll be bringing the jacket forward like this, and you'll have a lot of extra space, so you'll be able to have this part of the sleeve here, and this part will have many more rounds, and you'll be working your butterfly stitches there. So you start here, the bottom of your sleeve, so do not move that marker, and you'll have many more rows. and it will come together just like this side and this side. So I'm going to do my best to show you in pictures how I did the measuring of how I found out where I need to put my buttons. You can use a hanger if you want, but the hangers that I had were kind of wide, so they're wider shoulders than my daughter, obviously. So it could be very difficult to get that correct, because it seemed way too small when I had it on the hanger, because it was so much wider than my daughter's shoulders that I thought I must need a few more rows because it's not closing right. And when I put it on my daughter to mark it out, it was so much better. So I recommend here that you have the person with you, because there's no real way of measuring it and how it's going to fall on their shoulders and everything. So also I have the site that also has lots of pictures as well and explanations. Always best to use the video tutorial and the pattern with pictures together. If I speak too fast or you're not sure of something, I have those still pictures up for you on the pattern. So what I did for around 18, when I was ready to start my buttonholes, is, like I said, I put it on my daughter and then I marked out 3 spaces. So you're going to need to at least get 3 more markers. And then I put it on her and found out, or when I pulled it tight, about how many buttons I could fit to close it from the top to the bottom. And it was about this amount of space. So what I did was I put a marker here and a marker here and then a marker here, right where I wanted to sew on the buttons. I mean put on the buttonholes. And then what I did was I chained 6 and I skipped over from one butterfly stitch over from the first butterfly stitch, the first wing, over to the second wing of the next butterfly stitch. Probably see it better in the picture I'm going to put up. So you just start from this butterfly stitch, I chained 6, and then I attached it by slip stitching into the farther wing. So I have an attachment here and here. And I got my button and I slipped it through there to see if it fit snug, because you're going to want it to be able to fit in there, but fit in there tightly. Snug, I should say, because you want them to be able to put the button in there easily without it being too big of a buttonhole where the button is just going to slip out. So I have pictures of that I'm going to put up for you. So I did that, and then after I got my slip stitch here, I'm going to show you, this is the part that's important. So I'm just going to pretend here this is the place I want to start my buttonhole, the very beginning of the round. I'm going to chain 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I'm going to skip this second wing. Then I'm going to skip the first wing of the next butterfly, and I'm going to slip stitch in this second wing, just like that. And that's how I got my buttonhole. And then using this next butterfly stitch here, just go right into it and do your butterfly stitch as normal. And chain 1, and then you'll want to go into the next one and do a butterfly stitch as normal. You'll be putting 2 butterfly stitches in between each buttonhole. So I just got my 2 butterfly stitches. So what I'm going to do is exactly what I did a second ago. I'm going to go into my first wing of my next butterfly stitch and do a slip stitch. Then I'm going to chain 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. You may need to chain less or more depending on the size of your button. Then again, you're going to skip over the next butterfly stitch here, find the next butterfly stitch, skip its first wing, and in the next wing you'll do a slip stitch. And then you'll again chain 1, skip over to the next butterfly stitch, and do it as normal. And then the next butterfly stitch, do as normal. I had 3 buttons that made a good size for me. So I went and I did this 3 times. So after I did this next one, again, I just skipped over, go into the next butterfly stitch, slip stitch, chain 6, skip the next wing here, skip the first wing of the next butterfly, and then go in and slip stitch in the next. Then chain 1, and then again continue now your butterfly stitches all the way around until you get right back up to where you began your round with this first buttonhole. So now you have your 3 buttonholes with 2 butterfly stitches in between, and now by doing these 2 butterfly stitches, you've created 1 butterfly stitch in between. You have 1 wing here, 1 wing there. So next row, this is what we're going to be working with. Okay, I just went ahead and added another color so I wouldn't have to butterfly stitch all the way around to be able to show you the next part. So pretend I went all the way around, and now this is my last butterfly stitch of the round before I come back up to my buttonholes again. The very last butterfly stitch of the round, there's no need to chain 1 at the very end of it. Just like when we were doing our decreases on our arms, there's no need to do that chain 1. Just go ahead and do the butterfly stitches normal, but then don't do the chain, just go right into the buttonhole, the first buttonhole here, and I want you to single crochet 6 onto this chain of 6 for our buttonholes. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you have your 6, then you want to skip this first space right after the buttonhole. And like I said, when we created these 2 butterfly stitches in between, we created 1 butterfly stitch in the center. This is the butterfly stitch we're going to be working with in between the buttonholes. We're going to skip any of these stitches on either side of them. We're just going to be working our single crochets on our buttonhole chain and working 1 butterfly stitch into this stitch here, going in through 1 wing, doing 1 part of the stitch, and then going into the next, finishing the stitch. And there's no need to chain 1 after this. Just go right into your next right into your next buttonhole and do your 6 single crochets. 4, 5, and 6. And then again, do your 1 butterfly stitch in between. No need to chain at the end. Just go right into the last buttonhole and do your 6 single crochets. 5 and 6. And that is how you do your buttonhole spaces. Then you're just going to want to do a butterfly stitch in the remaining of the stitches all the way around. And then when you get right back up to the beginning again, you just slip stitch into the beginning stitch here, which I believe was this big old stitch here right before the first buttonhole. I think I just slip stitch right in there. Then I left myself some tail when I cut my yarn. Then I created my slip knot and ended it, and then I took my tapestry needle and I hid that yarn really well. And then you'll be done with the buttonholes. And I already showed you how to do the armholes here. So you should have both your armholes, and you'll have your buttonholes here, and your jacket should be completed. I hope that this tutorial was helpful, and like I said, if I went too quick on a certain spot, you can always rewind the video. And also, using the pattern with pictures along with the video could explain way more than I ever could in a comment. I mean, leave a comment if you have a question about some detail about it, but first it's best to check a pattern because I show with pictures, so it's going to actually explain so much better than I could in just a comment. So you may always check the description box under the video, any of my videos. There'll always be a pattern link there. So thank you so much for watching this video. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like and please share the video. It helps me so much. Thank you so much for watching.